This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
We learn that people slip, it's only human. Errors show the path to grow and we're improving. Context shapes the way we do our best work. Focus on the system, no blame can hold us back. 5 hot principles lifting us higher. Learning without blame, fueling our fire. Together we grow, together we thrive. Keeping operational excellence alive.
Welcome to Season 7 and the 139th episode of the podcast show, Hop into Action. I am your host, Brent Sutton. I want you to think about the last time you tried to change something important. Maybe it was a personal habit, or maybe, and this is more likely why you're here, it was a system at work, a safety protocol, a culture. Did you try to polish what was already there? Did you try to burn it down and start over? Or did you try to invent something that never existed before? We use words like change, improvement, and progress interchangeably. But in the world of safety, these aren't synonyms. They are distinct forces. Today, we are looking at a framework I call the Triad of Safety, Evolution, Revolution, and Innovation. We're going to dissect how these three forces shape not just your safety approach, but your entire philosophy of how we work. Are you evolving? Are you leading a revolution? Or are you innovating? And more importantly, do you know the difference? Let's start with the most comfortable of the three, evolution. When we talk about evolution and safety, we are talking about the slow, steady march of maturity. It's about incremental steps and continuous improvement. It's the feeling of safety growing up. If you look back at history, safety has evolved through distinct ages. We started in the technical age, guarding the gears, fixing the machines. Then we moved to the human factors age, trying to make the buttons fit the fingers and the systems fit the brain. Then came the safety management age, focusing on culture and systems. It's a comforting narrative, isn't it? The idea that we are just getting better day by day. In an evolutionary model, we use tools like the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. We fine-tune operations. We want things to be safer, faster, cheaper, but we essentially keep the existing structure in place. We aren't tearing down the factory, we're just oiling the gears. But here is the thought-provoking part. Evolution isn't always benevolent. Sidney Dekker warns us about a concept called drift. Drift is unintentional evolution. It's what happens when you have production pressure. You cut a corner here, you skip a check there. Nothing bad happens, so that becomes the new standard. As he puts it, departures from the norm become the norm. This is the dark side of evolution. Systems can drift into failure through the exact same incremental steps that are supposed to lead to improvement. It makes you wonder if your organization is changing slowly. Is it evolving toward maturity, or is it drifting toward a cliff? Now let's shift gears. Let's talk about revolution. If evolution is a ramp, revolution is a cliff. It is a fundamental discontinuity, a paradigm shift. Evolution asks, how do we play this game better? Revolution asks, are we playing the wrong game? In safety, we are currently living through a revolution. You might know it as the shift from traditional safety to contemporary safety with labels like New View, Safety 2, Safety Differently, HOP, etc. Think about the traditional view. The goal is to avoid accidents. We constrain variability. We tell workers, follow the procedure, don't deviate. In this view, the worker is the problem to be fixed. But the revolution, the new view, flips this on its head. It argues that in our complex modern world, You can't just constrain people. You have to harness their adaptability. It isn't about avoiding failure. It's about ensuring success. In this revolutionary view, workers aren't the problem. They are the solution. Safety isn't a component you bolt on. It's an emergent property of the system. It is not because traditional safety is bad. There is an important historical point here. Traditional safety was born in the Industrial Revolution. It was built on Newtonian logic of cause and effect, linear physics. But we don't work in Newtonian factories anymore. We work in complex socio-technical systems. The old logic simply can no longer explain or manage the complex system. So, a revolution requires you to discard your old theories. And that is painful. It requires you to admit that maybe, just maybe, the way you've been managing safety for 20 years isn't just inefficient. It might be no longer relevant for the organizational needs. So we have evolution, slow improvement, and revolution, changing the philosophy. That leaves the third member of the triad, innovation. How is this different? Innovation is about creating capacity and novelty. It's not just doing things better, which is evolution, and it's not just thinking about things differently, which is revolution. It's about solving problems in ways that break the routine entirely. There is a concept here I love called recombinant innovation. It's the idea that you don't always need to invent a new molecule. Sometimes you just need to combine existing ideas in a way that no one has ever tried before. But here is the catch, and this is the part that scares leaders. Traditional safety is obsessed with reducing uncertainty. We want policies, procedures, and predictability. Innovation? Innovation requires you to embrace uncertainty. To innovate, you have to embrace radical learning. You have to experiment. And if you experiment, you might fail, and you will also succeed. Failure and success work hand in hand. You can fail fast and succeed quickly. Right now, innovation is happening in your organization. There are invisible, bottom-up solutions being created every day. The adaptions and workarounds that happen on the floor by workers are created by workers to get the job done because the bureaucratic system is too slow or too dumb to handle reality. That is innovation. It's messy, it's local, it relies on divergent thinking. In the summary of these concepts, there is a stark contrast. Evolution is about efficiency. Revolution is about philosophy. Innovation is about creativity. One focuses on known risks. One addresses complexity. The other embraces uncertainty to discover the unknown. So where does this leave us? We often see organizations trying to jam these three things together. They want the results of a revolution, a total paradigm shift in safety culture, but they only want to use the tools of evolution, slow, safe, incremental changes. Or they want innovation, new creative solutions, but they refuse to accept the uncertainty and failure that comes with it. You cannot have it all.
We are taking a break from the podcast for this message. Operational excellence starts with people, and the Hop Beginner's Guide series shows you how. Each short, practical volume tackles a core theme, from understanding human error to learning from events, building frontline leadership, and even applying HOP beyond safety. Written in plain language by practitioners, not academics, and enriched with insights from global HOP leaders, these value-packed books help you turn principles into practice. Whether you're just starting or deepening your journey, the series gives you the tools to learn, adapt, and deliver better work. Search HOP Beginners Guide on Amazon. Small volumes, big impact. And now back to the podcast.
So Let us explore an example of a method, tool, solution that is seen by organizations as innovation, yet in reality is evolution. Let us explore the notion of energy-based safety, which is widely becoming accepted as the next thing to do. Here is the breakdown of where energy-based safety fits within the triad of evolution, revolution, or innovation. In the context of the triad, a revolution asks, are we playing the wrong game? Energy-based safety argues that traditional safety is playing the wrong game regarding fatalities. Energy-based safety was born from the realization that while minor injuries have declined, serious injuries and fatalities have plateaued. Energy-based safety rejects how Heinrich's safety pyramid has been used by organizations where they have assumed that reducing minor incidents automatically reduces fatalities. Author Matthew Hallowell, in his book, Energy-Based Safety, A Scientific Approach to Preventing Serious Injuries and Fatalities, he writes that the legacy of the safety pyramid exemplifies the perils of making important decisions without evidence, and that strategies that prevent minor injuries are not effective for preventing fatalities. Energy-based safety applies a revolutionary distinction. The things that hurt people are not the same as the things that kill people. This challenges the evolutionary approach of simply doing more of the same standard safety work to stop fatalities. Energy-based safety is not strictly new physics. It synthesizes William Haddon's energy release theory from the 1960s with modern HOP principles. It combines the physics of energy with the psychology of human error. That is, context drives behavior. So while it utilizes HOP principles, which is a revolutionary social theory, its core mechanism, energy, is fundamentally evolutionary in nature. It is about improving the efficiency of the existing machine rather than throwing the machine away. I like energy-based safety. It is helping to create change. It is useful in the evolution of how we handle stickies. Let us now turn to something that fits the innovation leg of the safety triad. On Todd Conklin's podcast show, Pre-Accident Investigation, in episode 584, he explores how pediatric hospitals cut negative outcomes for babies with a risk called extubations by 60%, with better outcomes for 12,500 babies. The patient safety story perfectly illustrates the innovation leg of the safety triad because it relies on experimental testing, cross-industry borrowing, and empowering frontline workers to create novel solutions rather than just tweaking existing hospital policies. Here is how the Pediatric Hospital Initiative demonstrates the core concepts of safety innovation. 1. Taking existing ideas and combining them in new ways to solve a problem. The Society of Patient Safety achieved this by taking proactive safety tools and concepts from HOP that they picked up from industrial sectors and applying them to the highly complex environment of neonatal intensive care units. 2. Cultivating local, worker-led adaptations and workarounds for solutions. The hospitals recognise that the expertise to stop unplanned extubations, tubes pulling out of babies, lived operationally at every level of the organisation. By utilising learning teams, they went directly to the paediatric nurses at the front line to identify both the problems and the solutions. These worker-generated ideas were described as blue line solutions, which perfectly matches the triad's definition of vernacular bottom-up innovation. 3. They embraced radical learning and experimentation. Innovation requires organizations to step away from predictable routines and engage in radical learning, which involves experimentation and testing. The hospital network deliberately chose to test new ideas, with 99 hospitals using learning teams and 72 hospitals using proactive safety huddles. They embraced the uncertainty required for innovation by being willing to boldly go out to fail, but they fail quickly and they learn even quicker. 4, rejecting bureaucracy for action. They used people who rely on horizontal coordination and trust over rigid rules as the prime example of innovation. The children's hospitals mirrored this exact behaviour because they didn't wait for anybody to sort of give them permission to start using these proactive safety ideas. They simply took off and did it. 5, breaking out of evolutionary drift. In evolutionary safety, organisations can suffer from drift, where departures from the norm become the norm. With the hospitals, there was a high rate of unplanned extubations and disproportionately high rates for black patients had become normalised in these hospitals. The overall result was by applying different ways to learn, respond, and improve, the hospitals broke out of the norm, reducing the overall rate by 60% and successfully closing the racial outcome gap. The hospitals embraced both complexity and uncertainty for the innovation to occur. As we close out, I want you to look at your own safety strategy. Are you in the technical age just guarding machines? Are you drifting, letting departures from the norm become the norm? Are you brave enough to embrace the revolution of HOP, viewing your people as the solution? Or are you ready to foster innovation, increasing uncertainty to find a better way? The Triad of Safety suggests you need to know which tool to use and when. Because if you try to solve a revolutionary problem with an evolutionary tool, you're just polishing a machine that's already obsolete. If this topic or the story of patient safety, embracing complexity and uncertainty interests you, then join me with Todd Conklin, Redonda Vort, and Anne Lyron at Todd Conklin's 2-day workshop conference in Santa Fe, New Mexico, March 31st and April 1st, 2026. The link is in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey with Hop into Action. I've loved sharing stories, ideas, and practical ways to do safety differently with you. Your support and curiosity are what make this community so strong, and I want to thank you for being part of it. If you're ready to keep building capability, capacity, and resilience, I'd encourage you to check out the HOP Beginner's Guide series on Amazon. Each volume is short, practical, and packed with insights, and the book series is designed for busy people who want real impact, not theory. This isn't the end of the conversation, just the next step in your journey. So thank you again for listening, for learning, for supporting better work. Until next time, remember, small changes, shared stories, and thoughtful practice lead to big results with HOP, learning teams, and the 4Ds.